Welcome to join me on the 6:15 with 2 minutes late for technical reasons. I'm Kijang Henry at Timby. Now let's flag off with our headlines. Baobab tree kills mother of 5 after violent storm ripped through the town of Fumban in the west region of Cameroon, where they were visiting. 4 persons were seriously injured. 6 months of blackout on the southern grid. And as inflation continues to bite across Cameroon, questions to linger whether the current minimum wage of 43,000 francs can sustain any family. Top stories.
Canal
on our respective flat platforms for consultation on Canal International. We begin from the west region, where a baobab tree has killed a mother of 5 after violent storms ripped through the town of Fumban. In fact, the century-old tree actually fell on the rooftop of a local health center where they were visiting patients. 4 persons are reported to have been seriously injured, as Sherifa Salena reports.
The deceased is a mother of 5 who was trapped when the tornado swept through the town of Fumban, uprooting a century-old baobab, sending it falling on the roof of the Cocaine Malum Medical Center. Juwerato died on the spot. 4 persons were seriously injured. The baobab tree, believed to be over 100 years old, was not previously considered a threat. However, local sources suggest it may have weakened over time due to the natural aging and erosion, making it vulnerable to the severe weather conditions. Witnesses from Fumban gathered at the scene, expressing shock and sorrow at the unexpected disaster. At the family home of Juwerato, mother of 5, the atmosphere was one of deep mourning. Relatives and friends observed Muslim prayers in her memory ahead of her burial. Local administrative authorities have yet to comment officially on the incident, but concerns are rising over the safety of old trees in densely populated areas.
West region, it is another tragic incident where a newborn baby girl who was rescued from a Sikh community in Bangante. Details with Gladys Ambodiba.
The baby girl found submerged in a shared toilet in Quartier 2 in Bangante in the West region died shortly after being admitted to the district hospital. She had spent more than 5 hours in the septic tank, reportedly abandoned by her mother shortly after birth. Emergency services were called after local residents discovered the baby following heavy rainfall. She was quickly rushed to the hospital and placed in intensive care, but succumbed to complications a few hours later. The baby's mother, a 28-year-old woman who had been living with her parents since her divorce, is believed to have given birth alone earlier that morning. Neighbors say she showed no clear signs of pregnancy and had previously denied being pregnant when confronted. The woman had reportedly given conflicting accounts of her actions, indicating emotional distress and possible mental health concerns. Already a mother of 2, she is currently in police custody as investigations continue into the circumstances surrounding the abandonment.
For about 6 months now, inhabitants of the locality of Mayo, that is in the central region of Cameroon, have been going and enduring without electricity. Now, on-the-spot analysis actually reveals that the lines were vandalized, and so it disrupted transportation. Once more, now let's have this report courtesy Beatrice Gabo.
The roaring engines of generators, something for the fittest here at Mayo. Majority others just had to endure and have been in this state for about 6 months.
Les populations en souffrent, puisqu'il y a des gens qui ont des produits fraîches.
Deciding they could not continue living like this, they seek the attention of the electricity company. Arriving in the area, The evidence speaks for themselves. Most high-tension poles almost naked, as associate lines have disappeared, some completely destroyed, while the long blackout. They have a well-known mode of operating, you see. So either they open, this is an area interior with manual control, what we call IACM. So they come, they open, either they grease the poles or they go a bit further downstream to section the bridges on the area network. They proceed to clean the entire network. That is, removing the insulators and all the insulators chain elements that allow energy to be transported to the delivery point. Material stolen is in great quantities, and this might take some few days or months before things get back to normal.
Après ces avancées, c'est de normaliser le réseau, donc mettre le réseau à l'état où il était avant.
And so they call for the population to be vigilant in order to safeguard their electricity supply line.
And sensitize the population, whoever they are, that it should be stopped. You are the one benefiting from this situation, from the electricity. It's up to us, either you have electricity or you don't have. And you have to realize that Mayo is not only responsible. And in my capacity as the mayor, I will convene the population or the traditional rulers so as to sensitize all the population around Kolafamba.
The wish of these residents is to see the end of power outage, for things to get back to normal at Mayo, Kolafamba subdivision, Mefu and Afamba division of the central region.
Very unfortunate there, and as the world braces up for the International Labour Day, the spotlight is on those who are at the forefront of labour advocacy. Apart from boardroom negotiations and public outcry, the daily reality of these people is to fight for workers' rights. But then they are always met with very stiff resistance. Ambo Gladys takes a look on that.
Being a union leader in Cameroon often means giving up personal peace for a greater cause. It is a role that begins long before dawn and ends long after midnight, if it ever ends at all. According to this union leader, companies in Cameroon still abusively lay off, torture and threaten workers. Some firms even have cells where employees are locked up, while drivers, for example, continue to face harassment.
Their work is to protect drivers from all problems in everywhere. Whenever you have a problem, you call them, then they will come there for their intervention. They always have difficulties when they go for intervention, when they meet the law enforcers that do not want to understand it. That's where they face difficulties. Also, when they are trying to explain, like when they write for the minister to intervene, it will take the minister long before intervention.
Trade union, as far as driving is concerned, teaches us how to protect our rights and in our environment.
Such is the weight carried by those at the helm of labor unions, a burden made heavier by the indifference and at times hostilities they encounter, not only from employers and the state, but also from the very workers they aim to protect.
Les travailleurs ne veulent pas se syndiquer.
Many workers are hesitant to join trade union due to a fear of confrontation and a belief that union leaders are heroic figures who will take all the risk and solve their problems for them. In the corporate sphere, union leaders are often viewed as adversaries, obstacles to maximizing profits and maintaining control over employees. Public authorities, too, frequently regard union leaders with suspicion, seeing them as agitators and instigators of strikes.
And when it comes to state authorities, the relationship is no less complicated. A deeper unwillingness to engage. He claims they had written several times about the 2006 collective agreement in the transport sector, which is now outdated and still hasn't been respected. Internally, unions are not without their own struggles. Accusations of leaders being too close to political power or failing to reflect the concerns of the grassroots create rifts and erode trust. But balancing these pressures with the demands of their members is one of the greatest challenge of union leaders.
As inflation, wage of 43,000 francs can actually sustain a family. But then as Maureen D takes a look on that, she's saying that even a single person cannot sustain on 43,000 francs minimum package for a week.
In the context of Labor Day, a worker refers broadly to anyone who contributes to the economy through their labor, especially manual, industrial, and service.
In Cameroon, the cost of which is sufficient to meet their basic needs.
On s'en sort pas, on bagarre avec la vie. Chaque jour, il faut vraiment. C'est pas facile.
Je pense que la vie est chère au Cameroun sur la base du SMIC.
The minimum wage in Cameroon stands at 43,696 francs CFA per month. However, with inflation rates hovering around 4.5% in 2024, the purchasing power of this wage has diminished significantly.
With this level of living, how do you pay bills? You have rent, feeding money. Tell me, how do you cope with 34,000? Nothing. A Cameroonian citizen who is a bachelor and needs to rent a simple room for himself is around 50. What if he falls sick? And what if his mom needs his assistance? You say it can't be enough. He can't cope.
The rising cost of food and transportation have outpaced wage increases, making it challenging for low-income earners to afford basic necessities. They emphasized in sectors like transport.
My salary is 3 times the SMIC. I thank God for that. I just imagine those who live with the minimum wage.
Trade unions are advocating for an increase in the minimum wage to at least 100,000 francs CFA, citing the need to align wages with the rising cost of living.
How do
you think I cope with 70,000 CFA francs? It is just so difficult, whereas we give in all in our job.
As Cameroon approaches Labor Day, May 1, the debate over wage adequacy continues, highlighting the broader challenges of economic inequality and inflation. For many Cameroonians, the hope is for policies that will bridge the gap between wages and the costs of living, ensuring a more equitable future.
And the 139th International Labour Day will be celebrated on May 1, 2025, that is next Thursday. But then the newsroom took interest on who is a worker. Now let's get the reactions from different persons from the public and private sector as compared in this report. Courtesy our Yaoundé chief correspondent, Beatrice Ngamo.
In the context of Labor Day, a worker refers broadly to anyone who contributes to the economy through their labor, especially manual, industrial, and service work. Via her mobile telephone satisfies family needs, and she's happy. To me, it's work, everyone, and many other things. Charles, on the other hand, is a civil servant, a worker in every sense. To him, a worker is one with a task to accomplish, and after the task, a remuneration.
Alors la tâche et la rémunération font de moi un travailleur.
In circumstances marked by difficulties finding a job, our scope of the worker broaden. The Office of Labour Inspector, our next stop, the status of workers, we were told, is regulated in Article 1, Paragraph 1 of the Labour Code. In this law, workers shall mean anyone, irrespective of sex or nationality, who has undertaken to place his service in return for the employers. Professional discretion, reserve, non-rivalry are some of the most respected duty of the worker. This as the rights and obligation mutual. Within the labor codes, workers benefit from certain rights, including their affiliation with the National Social Insurance Fund for retirement or old age pensions. A worker is anyone doing something that contributes to the well-being and the economy in their own way. The International Labour Day, May 1, is occasion to celebrate the struggles and achievements of workers who have fought.
Thanks very much, Beatrice Ngamo. And Bank has ruled out new officials. This announcement was Cameroon's rich natural resources, strategic location, but persistent challenges ranging from insecurity to poor infrastructure and governance have slowed progress.
You know, countries within the sub-region and in Africa to be emerged.
In Douala, the African Import-Export Bank took a bold step to change that narrative. The bank presented its financial packages to commercial banks and potential investors as part of its regional roadshow. The message was clear. It is time for African countries, especially in Central Africa, to do business with each other.
We build infrastructure to finance trade events like the roadshow. So understanding better what is it that the government, and that way we work backward agenda, but also a very strong, sustainable and viable private sector.
With over 100 million people in the sub-region, Afrexim Bank says intra-African trade remains far too low at less than 25%. Through partnerships with the African Continental Free Trade Area, the bank aims to raise that figure and promote sustainable economic growth.
Mostly what we lack as businessmen in Cameroon is not just financing, because financing the local banks can do, but development financing, which means that financing we can take from 5, 6, 7 to 10 years, which can make you develop a project from beginning to end with the financing, because the local banks cannot do that.
But Afrexim Bank isn't handing out blank checks. As a financially sound and self-regulating institution, it only funds viable projects backed by solid strategic planning. The Douala event is part of a 5-year vision to support African economies like Cameroon's realize their full potential and take their place in the global marketplace. In Fumban after a baobab tree fell seriously injured when violent storms standing by there at Senak. It is in Bonamusali, and we'll be live from there. From all of us, it's goodbye from me.